Welcome to another edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their July 17th, 2017 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 7, public hearing on proposed assessments for Holyoke Avenue Improvement Project 17-04. And to provide the background information on this agenda item is Public Works Director Chris Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Do have a brief presentation tonight before we open the assessment hearing and then consider award of the contract. So we'll start, and I know the council, those in the audience and those maybe watching at home have heard quite a bit about this project because we've been working on it for a couple of years now. But to remind everyone, the project scope is a mill and overlay of the roadway surface, complete sidewalk replacement in the business district. The rest of the area that has sidewalks, it will be spot sidewalk replacement, streetscape improvements specifically in the business district area, and then street light replacement for the entire corridor, all of the street lights. Project background, again, it started back in August of 2015, and I won't go through the dates again with you because we've done it a number of times, but you can see it leads us up to opening the bids and computing the assessments back in June, and then ultimately setting this assessment hearing tonight and award of the contract. So, of course, a lot of work was done with the streetscape analysis, a lot of work with the Downtown Lakeville Business Association and a subcommittee that was formed looking at the sidewalks, streetscape components, streetlight replacement, and gateway signage. Here's just kind of an elevation drawing and some other things that highlight some of the things going on in the downtown area. Everything from bump outs at select locations, as you can see in that kind of overview there, a special scoring pattern with the concrete walks, trees for shade, raised seat walls with planting beds. Those are some of the amenities that will be included in the streetscape. Also, streetlights we talked about. We will be replacing all of the existing street lights in the downtown area. They're currently an acorn style fixture, and they'll be replaced with this lantern style fixture. That's what they look like. Those are the mid-block lights, and then of course at all intersections it'll be the same type of light with a long mast arm, a cobra head type fixture that'll help to light the intersection, but they will be LED lights versus what they are today, which is high pressure sodium lights. Signage, that was a big component of the project. A lot of discussions with both the council and the DLBA about signage. Included in the signage plan is a city message sign here in front of City Hall. There's a wayfinding sign that's just to the south, in fact on the southwest corner of the intersection of County Road 50 and Holyoke. There's gateway signage as part of the streetscape at both 207th and 210th Street. And then there's also some approved signage that the county will be installing for wayfinding signs along both County Road 70 and also along Cedar Avenue or County Road 23. So first off, the city message sign and the north wayfinding sign, just wanted to highlight that. The city message sign that'll be right here in front of City Hall is paid for with city communication funds. The north wayfinding sign is being funded solely with Dakota County TIF and CDA, the CDA RIG grant that the city was successful in obtaining. Then we go on to the north and south gateway signage. Again, that's part of the streetscape component, is actually on some of the decorative components and some of the landscaping amenities that will be in the downtown area. That's comprised, the funding for that is special assessments, the previous two sources that I mentioned for the north wayfinding sign, and then also some funds from TIF District number 3. And then lastly, we have some of the wayfinding signs that the county will be installing. This comes at a very pretty nominal cost to the city. The city will be paying for those, and that's along County Road 70 and also along Cedar Avenue, like I mentioned. And that's in process right now. So the projected costs, this is where we wanted to talk a little bit. The council's seen this already, but the feasibility report estimate was about $2.35 million. The bid results with all the indirect costs was $2.9 million, so a significant difference. Here is the kind of all of the different parts and components of that project. You can see the indirect costs at the bottom, but there's a number of other things that have factored in. Yes, some of the costs were a little bit more, but there were a number of different components that weren't included in the feasibility report, but yet we had budgeted for. So it kind of makes that number not as significant and maybe as appears on the last slide. For instance, the Art Center parking lot improvements, that was in our building fund project, not included in the feasibility report, but part of the overall project cost. The Market Plaza sidewalk improvements or repairs in Market Plaza, that's part of our pavement management fund. Some of the electrical improvements weren't all inclusive in the feasibility report, but were planned for and funded as well. So that just gives you an idea, and you can see kind of the spread in costs here. I know the council's seen this already, and as well as those that attended the neighborhood meeting that we had. But that kind of shows you a breakdown of how the costs are distributed throughout the overall project. So what does that mean really when it comes down to assessments? So the first item we have there is the single family unit rate from 202nd to 207th Street. The feasibility estimate was $1,948.64. The bid results came in just slightly higher at $1,967, an increase of less than 1%. That can be mostly attributed to some of the costs with concrete and asphalt. The front foot assessment rates for the business district, you can see some of the estimates there, $155 for the street improvements. The bid result was $135, so about a $20 reduction, or about nearly 13% reduction. And then also the front foot assessment rate for signage from the business district as well was at $5.56 as an estimate, and came in at $3.54, about a 36% reduction. And then we also do have a single family unit south of 210th Street. The estimate, the feasibility estimate, was $1,053. The bid result was $960.15. Again, a reduction of about almost 9%. And then lastly, our front foot assessment rates. Different sections of road, just to remind everyone, from 210th Street to the south, it's a rural section, ditches, there's only a limited amount of curb and gutter, so that's why it's so drastically different from what we would see with the other portions of Holyoke. But again, that is, estimated amount was $11.02 a front foot, and the bid result was $8.65 a front foot, so a reduction of about 21% on that as well. So just to remind everyone that might be here, and for the council's benefit, our assessment policy and what's going on tonight. Assessments will be considered at tonight's public hearing. Assessments can be paid without interest by November 15th of 2017. Again, if the council decides to certify the assessments tonight, or adopt the assessment roll. The assessment period is 10 years and the interest rate is 5%. So now the city's assessment policy, street improvements, 40% of the project costs are assessed to the benefiting property owners. This includes streets, sidewalks, streetscape, signage, storm sewer improvements. And I already mentioned that to the benefiting property owners. A thing to remember is street light improvements are not assessed. Those are paid for with our street lighting operating funds that come with everyone's utility bills that they pay for the street lights. So how does the city's assessment policy work, specifically for single-family unit assessments and along Holyoke? Holyoke, for instance, is considered a major collector road, 44 feet in width. Our assessment policy only assesses for a minor collector, which goes up to 40 feet. So ultimately, the assessment is prorated, and is the benefiting property owners are only assessed 40% of a 40-foot roadway, and the city picks up that remaining 4 feet 100%. And that's in accordance, again, with the city's special assessment policy. Again, properties are assessed on a per-unit basis for residential property owners that are zoned residential. So the same person, no matter what their lot width might be, is assessed the same amount down and through the corridor. And then, of course, all the commercial properties that are zoned for commercial use are assessed on a front foot basis. Corner lots, only one unit is assessed for either side of the front, either the side or the front, and typically assessments are determined based on the driveway location, house orientation, or past assessments. There are senior citizen and disabled persons deferrals. I won't read through all of this here, but there is extensive information on our project webpage if someone is interested in that, and they can contact myself or any of our staff in our assessment group to help them with that. Again, senior citizen and disabled person deferrals, you must submit an application, and those are due by September 30th of 2017. And assessments following that November 15th date that I mentioned earlier, that anyone can pay off their assessment or pay a portion of their assessment by November 15th. After that, the assessments will be certified to the county in December for taxes payable in 2018. A little bit more on assessments. Assessment policy does follow Minnesota State Statute 429 for public improvements. So if anyone would be interested in appealing their assessment, they need to provide written intent to appeal the assessment, must be presented in writing either by the property owner, either prior to the meeting or at the hearing tonight. We have yet to receive any appeals to date. So moving forward, project schedule, we did declare the costs back in June. We held a second neighborhood meeting in this room a week ago on Monday night. We had about 4 folks in attendance for that meeting, or 4 property owners. We did then have a follow-up meeting with the Downtown Lakeville Business Association and their subcommittee members on Wednesday the 12th to go over some of the project phasing. We're here tonight for the assessment hearing and then also for the council to consider the award of the construction contract. Construction, if awarded tonight, would be anticipated to start tomorrow. And we look to certify the assessments in December, like I mentioned. Communications are always absolutely critical. So we have developed a construction plan, staging plan and schedule. We have the project contact information that's all set, and as we do with some of our other street reconstruction projects, we will have a dedicated web page for this with a website and news, weekly status updates, excuse me. And folks can sign up at any time if they desire for email updates, that anytime we post any new information, they will be automatically emailed with that information. So just the preliminary staging plan for those that maybe weren't here last Monday night, or for the council's benefit, this is posted on the project webpage, and I apologize, it's hard to see, but I'll use the cursor here. You see the lighter pink, that's the area that's scheduled to start first on the west side of Holyoke, and that would start actually tomorrow. Then we would flip-flop to the east side starting later in August as the west side wraps up. Shortly thereafter, work at the Art Center would begin, and that's why you see that kind of in that yellow area. That's the Art Center that would begin, and the goal there would be to have it completed by the Arts Festival, all the stuff on the grounds of the Art Center. Then we go on to this little orange area that's up here. That would start in early August, and the goal would be to wrap that up by Labor Day, by September 1st. Those are some turn lane improvements, and the goal is to have those completed before school and the students return and school's back in session. And then you can see the final 2 areas, both the northern portion of Holyoke and the southerly portion of Holyoke, that work taking place beginning in August and wrapping up by mid to late September. In all, the goal is to have the project substantially complete by early October. So the next steps for the council would be to hold the assessment hearing and then consider awarding a construction contract for the Holyoke Avenue Improvement Project, which is City Project 17-04. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Item number 7 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 8, Cedar and Dodd Retail Edition. And to provide the background information regarding this agenda item is Planning Director Daryl Morey.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I do want to point out that we're very pleased that Hy-Vee is once again partnering with us and putting forth a new concept in the city. Obviously, their grocery store up in the Spirit of Branch and Farm development has been very successful, so we're feeling that this will be successful as well. And staff has really enjoyed working with Hy-Vee and Mr. Hoy in particular. So just want to point that out. He was pretty detailed in his presentation, so I don't have a lot to add. I will just quickly go through the applications and the actions that the City Council is being asked to consider this evening. As you can see on the screen, the location is the northeast corner of Cedar Avenue and Dodd Boulevard. Also, Glacier Way sits to the north side of this development. The applications include a preliminary plat. That's what's on the screen before you right now. The preliminary plat is 4 commercial lots and 1 outlot, which is a ponding area outlot. The site is just under 16 acres and it's zoned C3 General Commercial District. The final plat that's on the screen now includes 2 of the 4 lots in the preliminary plat and then 2 outlots, 1 for future commercial development. And as you heard, the 2 lots that are proposed this evening are for the Hy-Vee convenience motor fuel sales that will also include a coffee shop with a drive-through window. That'll be on lot 1, and then the medical office building, which will be on lot 2. This is the overall site plan for the development, including the future development on the outlot on the final plat, a possibility of a couple more commercial pad sites to the north, to the east side of the private drive that will run through the property. The specific site plans for the 2 lots that are proposed for development immediately. This is the Hy-Vee C-store that Mr. Hoy talked about in detail. As you can see, there's access comes in off of both Glacier Way and a private drive that will be constructed with this development that'll connect Glacier and Dodd. And then this is the site plan for the medical office building on lot 2. The office building is a permitted use. The conditional use permit covers the C-store and the drive-through window for the coffee shop. Here's a little bit about the exterior building materials that Mr. Hoy discussed. They made some modifications following the Planning Commission meeting, more clarification than anything else to come into compliance with zoning ordinance requirements. Again, this is for the convenience store. Here's the floor plan layout for the convenience store. And then here's kind of an elevation drawing of the office building. And then the last item that is being considered by the City Council this evening is an easement vacation. It's in the crosshatch on this plan. It covers roadway drainage utility for a portion of Glacier Way. As you can see, that easement that to be vacated will be replaced by platted right-of-way as part of this project. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on the preliminary plat, conditional use permit, and easement vacation at their June 29th meeting and unanimously recommended approval. There was no public comment at that hearing. The Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Committee also considered the plat and they recommend approval as well. As you heard, revised building elevation and canopy plans have been submitted. They're now in compliance, so that item is no longer part of the conditional use permit. The stipulations that are included in the conditional use permit are those that are remaining from the Planning Commission recommendation on June 29th. Staff is recommending adoption of the resolutions approving the preliminary and final plat and the roadway drainage and utility easement vacation, as well as the conditional use permit and adoption of the findings of fact. And I can stand for questions.
Item number 8 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the highlighted items presented to the council at their July 17th, 2017 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up.